Well, welcome to week 3 of Introduction to Christian Ethics here at the Center for Ministry. We are off to a good start. I keep saying that to you. It was true for the entry into week 2, and it is all the more true now as we're heading into week 3. Well, this week we're going to talk about what's inside of us. We're really going to do an internal look because ethics, our ability to make good ethical decisions has to do with also what gets in the way. What is it that colors our judgment? This is a turn in what we're looking at in this course because we're really going to begin to hone into to this. You'll see more of that as the weeks go by. That's not the only thing that we're going to be looking at, but it's very, very important. Let me start for a moment with Levin's work and what you're going to see in there. He's going to talk this week about goals, duties, about what virtues we ought to have. We're going to pick back up on that word teleology that we met the first week, and we're also going to talk about deontology and aretiology. So be sure that you read these pages that are have been assigned there. I am really excited about Schmidt's work. The moment I found this book, I thought, wow, staying in bounds. And when I was asked to teach this course originally in 2011, I was told we really don't want this course to be a boundaries course, the type of course that we require in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ for our ministers, where we talk about what their boundaries are, what boundaries are, and how we maintain good and proper boundaries within ministry. So I was a little wary as I picked this book up, but I thought, well, it's more than how to what boundaries are, but really more about staying in boundaries. And then I looked and said, wow, this is a thick little book, and will cover a lot more than we can in our boundary courses, our boundary classes that we require. Well, I need to start with saying that the questions on the discussion forum this week are kind of personal. Particularly one of those is very personal, and there's this caution that this forum is not confidential. Now, with that, I say that the forum is not open to open sharing. I want you to be as honest as you can and as honest as you are willing to be. I've told my children over the years as they are growing up, and have had occasion to tell one of my grandchildren, that be really careful about what you put into writing. Be really careful what you put out there in social media. Is it something that you'll be embarrassed by if your mom or your dad or another significant adult in your life sees? Then if there's a chance that you might be embarrassed by that, do not write it. Do not put it out there for general distribution. Except, I say, do not write it, except in a journal. I will tell you that my journals have at the back and at the front, these are personal reflections. This is my personal journal. This is where I struggle and write what I am dealing with on any given daily basis. And I am asking you to respect that and to not read any further than this page, because I realize what people read may not be exactly what I'm wrestling with. I think about someone's I might be wrestling with. If they were to read that, they would think, oh my gosh, she really doesn't like me, when that's not the case at all. So be careful. Also, when I was in seminary, went to a United Methodist seminary, and it was said from the very beginning, be careful. be careful what you share in class, because one of your fellow students may be your future district superintendent or your future bishop, and what you say, what you share, could come back to bite you. So I will not say that your denominational official, if you're in a denomination, may be like that, but we still want to be careful. Now, for each of us, we want to respect one another. We do not want to share each other's stories. We do not want to share what we're wrestling with. And it is so much easier to point and look at other people's stuff rather than to look at our own. With that, it's that we will project onto others what may actually be our own. So be really careful with, one, what you share, but how you share. And as you're posting on those questions that are asking for self-reflection, be sure that as you interact with those, that you use one another's posts to self-reflect, not in ways that aren't true. Be careful. Projection is when we take our stuff that we either don't want to deal with or we don't even know is our stuff, and we project it onto somebody else. We deflect our stuff, or maybe it's not deflecting. It really is projecting. It is saying, whoosh, there it is. And when we do that, we put this barrier up to ourselves as well. So I'm thinking it's deflecting, but that would say what's coming at me, I'm going to deflect back there. So I don't want you to take what other people, what would that be called? It would be maybe sucking in other stuff into ourselves. To say, oh my gosh, I really struggle with that too. And taking that on, maybe it is, again, subconsciously this thought that I'd rather suffer with that stuff and deal with that stuff than I would want to deal with this other stuff. And that may not be in your head, but it may be somewhere down there in your heart. I'm hoping that makes sense, a little bit of sense to you. In the end, in the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, take the questions, look at Schmidt's chart in particular, and say, what is it that might get in the way of making this ethical decision? Some of you are familiar with Covey's work. Some of Covey's work is puts out some of the same pieces that Schmidt's does. So if you're familiar with that, you may want to draw on that for your own learnings as well. Just remember, we all have stuff. Now, it's important to come clean with this, at least internally. There may be things that you're going to write down, that you're going to struggle with, that you're going to wrestle with here this week and in other weeks to come, that aren't appropriate to put up on discussion forum. But if you don't journal, get just at least a notebook, or get a journal or something along those lines that you can be taking notes. Maybe before you post on the forum, you may want to write in that notebook or that journal these attributes, these characteristics, these objects that potentially, if they're not, that potentially may be getting in the way, or that could become problems down the line. You may want to write those down to come back and look at after the class, after you've completed your course of studies at Center for Ministry, that at least get them written down there. Now, we all have stuff. That's where I wanted to go with that. And let me say that if we don't deal with our stuff, that's really going to bite us. I may have said this in a previous week, either in video or on the discussion forum. We all leave ministries at one point or another. Two of the ways that we can leave ministry are by death and the other is by disability. And I have watched this happen over and over and over again. When I have said this for many, many years, people sometimes roll their eyes. They look like, oh, okay. When I say to ministers, listen, you're going to crash and you're going to burn, or you are crashing or you're burning and you are about to crash, then they, again, will make excuses. They'll become defensive often. Then what I see are these very odd occurrences, things that put them in the hospital, incidences, accidents that happen that take them out of ministry for a good time, if not forever. So we're doing this exercise because it's really, really, really important. And it really does get in the way of being able to make ethical decisions, not just for those you serve, but for yourself as well. Dick Ham, who is a former general minister and president of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, had said when he was a regional minister himself, he said, when something happens, when you fall, when you are failing, when pieces are not coming together, come and talk to me. When you have made an ethical breach, when you have acted unethically in a way really that could or is compromising your ministry, it could be something that would even compromise your standing, your authorization, your certification in ministry. He said, please come talk to me. I'm not saying that I can save you. I'm not saying at all that I will save you. I'm not saying that there won't be consequences, but together we can walk through this. We can get you what you need to take care of the consequences or to address the consequences, to get you the help you need so that you might not find yourself in this situation again. Come and talk to me, but God help you if I find out about it, not from you. So we've got to be upfront. It's got to happen. I don't want any of you to ever end up losing your ministry, to be taken out of ministry. I do not want you to suffer death or disability. I want you to be the best minister that you can. You're going to see in there the beginning of some discussion about accountability, how you will find an accountability partner. Let me say, it says this in discussion form, but I want to be very, very, very specific about this. Accountability people cannot be your spouse, cannot be your children or your grandchildren. They cannot be your parents. They cannot be a parishioner. Cannot be. You need somebody who can be objective in your life. With my husband, he can say things to me that my accountability partners can say, and he may not. When he says something to me, I could take it defensively. It can get in the way of our relationship. I am a natural coach, so often when he is sharing things, I want to coach him back. I was raised by my father, and whether or not it is generally true or specifically true for everybody, there is this adage that men want to solve things, and having been raised by a man, I am a solver in a natural way. And so when he tells me something, I want to help him solve the problem. And at least once a month, he says to me, I do not need a coach. I need a wife. And at least once a month, I say to him, I'm a better coach than I am a wife. Guess what? He has an accountability partner that is not me. And likewise, because my accountability partner, as I think I just said, I have a couple that I work with because I have a lot of problems that can get in the way, so I need double feedback. But they can say, and we'll even say this: are you really sure you want me to be honest with you. I can say back to them, is it okay if I'm brutally honest with you? Now, of course it's okay, because we made these agreements, we entered into these covenants years ago in both of these cases. So we have that established relationship, but there are times when we just can't hear it. And so it has happened that one of us, in one case, has said, "May I be brutally honest with you? Are you okay with that? Really? Again? Are still? Just want to make sure." And the other of us has had to say, "I want you to be brutally honest, but quite honestly, I'm not up to it today." And so we set aside the conversation for another day. I want you to be careful as you look at all of these pieces, particularly as you're filling in the chart for Schmitz, not to blame somebody else. So just as much as taking on other people's stuff, projecting your stuff, be careful about blame and that whole blame game that we tend to play. All right. It's going to be another great week. Keep it up. I am having so much trouble keeping up with you, but that is okay, because what you're posting, what you're saying, what you're doing is beyond awesome. And I thank you for your honesty. I thank you for the privileges that you give me of getting to walk beside you and to get to see portions of your life and your ministry. All right. Have a great week. Take care. I'll see you on the discussion forum.